There comes a moment in life when you have to decide, are you playing it safe or are you all in? This is All In Empowerment, the podcast where we crush fears and step boldly into the life you were meant to live. I'm your host, Betsy Martell, coach and adventurer, here to push you past your limits and unlock your full potential. It's time to level up your life because empowerment isn't just a mindset, it's a commitment. So are you ready? Because in this space, we don't tiptoe, we go all in. Okay, good morning, Tina.
Good morning, Betsy.
All right, well, I'm just going to introduce you a little bit here. So, Tina is my good friend that I met at a self development boot camp of sorts. And we stayed in touch, and I have been so inspired by her resilience. She has gone through so much in her life, from just a really tumultuous childhood with her mom, abuse, and then just everything leading up to that to a few years back, she lost her daughter. And she has come out fighting, and she is just amazing, just an inspiration to me. So welcome, Tina. How are you today?
I'm better now that I'm talking to you, Betsy.
Yay. So Tina, let's start with you tell the story. Um, Starting from, you talked to me about this Irish twin thing. I want you to start there.
Okay, well, my brother and I are Irish twins. We are approximately 9.5 months apart, so we share the same age for a couple of weeks every year. And I have been to therapy since a very young age, and in moving forward with my life, I came to realize that, the stress of my mom having me at such a close range, caused her to potentially, I mean, I can't get in her head, but the way she treated me and, um, throughout my childhood was, difficult at best. She told my therapist once that I was a monster as a toddler, that I would never sleep. And, she treated me as such, as a monster, and
Were you older or younger?
I'm younger.
Okay,
So
so
my brother
you
was probably 9 months old, maybe, when I was born. So it's about what? Gestation's 9.5 weeks, 10 months, really, not 9. So, um, I think when she became pregnant with me on a cellular level, she did not want me. I don't know what was going on with her marriage at that time. I know my father became an alcoholic and a raging drug addict. He was snorting heroin in the end when he finally checked himself into the life center. So I don't really know, all those components, but my aunt, who has her PhD from USC in psychology, told me once that my mom should have been, arrested in today's times as a abusive mother. My father left when I was really young, and we were latchkey kids from a very young age. And my brother tried to shoot me with a BB gun, and we ran just wild with no parental supervision at all. And you know, you, I think in my mind, because I didn't know any different, everybody grew up that way. And
Mhm.
so we didn't believe that there was any abuse, that this is just how people lived. And in hindsight and going through my life, I realized that, it created a lot of problems, some abandonment issues and some self-worth issues, major self-worth issues.
Now,
Uh,
what was your mom doing during this time? So, okay, so let's go back to you call it abuse. And so now from what I'm hearing, I'm getting emotional abuse, right? For sure. Was there physical abuse or just emotional abuse?
I think there was some physical abuse, I don't know that there was, like, outright beatings, but, just the way that she spoke to me and the way that she treated me was was abuse, she just wasn't
Mhm.
kind, and nothing I ever did was right, and so we all know sort of what that chameleon phase is when we try to morph into whatever it is that we can do to have people like, especially your parents, right? Like, and I was told that I used to sit by the window and wait for my dad, and he wouldn't show up, and so I don't really know the extent of the abuse that my mom put on me, but, from what I've been told, it was extensive, and she should have been dealt with on a legal level, but after I had children, actually, full circle, those of us who have had children, I think, realize that how difficult it is to be a parent, and, we only have the tools that we have, and I've forgiven my mom, you know, I have to move forward.
Now, there's a lot of generational abuse that goes on when, again, like you said, you're only given the tools that or you only know the tools that you were given from your parents, and how you use those tools, how you move forward. And a lot of times people, even though they say like, "Hey, I'm not gonna do this when I become a parent," still fall into that. And I'm wondering, did you ever feel like you were falling into either one of your parents' toolboxes, so to speak?
Totally, totally. When my kids were little, um, my son was throwing peas off of his high chair or something, and I was really annoyed, and, my husband called me Joyce, which is my mom's name, and
Oof.
I went in the bathroom and closed the door and sat by the toilet and cried for hours and really had to take a hard look at what was going on, and even then, I mean, even though I heard that, those patterns are so hard to break, especially
Mhm.
since it's on a cellular level for me, and I don't wanna make excuses for me or blame anybody, but, um, I'm 60 now, my children are grown, and I'm still looking at those patterns of self-worth and, all that not good enough, and it's tough.
Mhm. And so what kind of relationships, as far as with romantic relationships with boyfriends and husbands and things like that, how has that been affected?
Well, the whole, abandonment component is, just creates spaces for me where I get lost and I don't, I guess, connect, and I become needy, um, and it drives people away. Not
And do
so
you
much sorry, not so much in my, like, friendships, but more in those personal relationships for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna ask, do you ever feel like some of that is self-sabotage because you don't feel like you're worth it?
You nailed it, sister. Yes, self-sabotage all the time. I just had an instant with a client the other day, and she sent me a text message with some dates, and I knew about this one date, and I knew all I had to do was read the text message to confirm in my pea brain that that's what was the deal, and I didn't look at the text message, and I totally self-sabotaged. I set myself up to move back into that space of crunchiness and not worthy, putting myself in that position to feel that exact same way that I felt when I was a child. Because one of my therapists told me, it's what you know. It's like, okay, so one time after the kids were born, I used to use a lot of pot, and I asked my therapist, I said, "Why? I feel so good. I've been sober for years now, having the kids and nursing. Why do right now in this moment that I'm feeling so good, do I wanna smoke pot?" And he said, "Because it was never okay for you to feel good." Boy, did that resonate. Um, and I still, I've been sober for a while now, and I'm just coming into this whole place of realizing how greatly that has affected my life, and being able to look at my last couple of romantic relationships and see where I started to spin out into this, not thinking that I'm getting enough, because I don't know that anyone can ever fill that. I'm the only person who can fill that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely 100%. Now, when you said so little confused. So when you said you were smoking pot and they said it's because you've never been allowed to feel good, the smoking pot, which most people are listening right now and saying, "Well, smoking pot makes me feel good," but that's not what you're saying. You're saying, or at least that's what I'm hearing, is that the smoking pot went back into a place of not feeling good, back to that crunchy place, if you will, because that was a out of control, you know, kind of undisciplined, if you will, feeling. That makes yes or no?
Totally, totally, and
Okay.
then but the other component too is, like, why do I want to alter my state of being when I'm feeling so good, right? Like, I feel great. Why would I wanna smoke pot? It alters everything, your chemistry in your body, and I couldn't understand why I wanted to move into a different space than where I was, and
Because if you screwed up, you could blame it on the pot.
no, just because I really feel like for me, especially now, like, I don't like the way it makes me feel. I don't like the way that it takes me away from my who I am, right? Like, there's this core place in me that doesn't need to be, fogged in smoke. There's a person inside of me that doesn't need that, right? Like, I don't it takes away from who I am,
Yeah,
and I was sm I like, it wasn't like a little pot here and there. I was a smoker pretty
okay.
much, so, it was I really feel like for me, and it may not be this for other people, but for me, it took me out of who I am and my brightest light, right? Like, it smoke screens that.
Right, right. And what I meant by that is that if if you're feeling good and it's almost okay, so you know when things are going so good in your life and you're sitting there saying, "When's the other shoe gonna drop? Because I don't deserve this. This never happens for me. I'm not
Yes.
the type of person who gets everything I want." And so it almost seems like a self-sabotage, right? Where if I go back into smoking pot, then not only am I back in that weird, comfortable yet uncomfortable space, um, but then I don't have to worry. Like, does that make sense? Like it's almost as if everything's going great and you're not smoking pot, then what would you have to blame it on it when things did go wrong? You could only blame it on yourself at that point.
Right. But I don't think it was more about that. I think it was more about not okay to feel good.
Ah,
Like,
gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
I obviously enjoyed smoking pot, but, now that I don't, I just realize what a detriment it was in my life and how much it held me back from being who I am.
And
And if
like you
I
said
had it to do over knowing what I now know now, I would never have started smoking pot to begin with, ever, or done any drugs or drank. I just like the feeling of being sober and being okay with not knowing what's gonna happen next,
yes.
and coming to the realization that I'm okay just the way I am. I don't need anything from the outside. It all has to come from here.
Now, what do you okay, so I still have an issue with this when people say that pot's not addictive and, I smoke pot, but I don't drink alcohol because alcohol is addictive, heroin's addictive, but pot's fine. I can't tell you how many people I've known throughout my life where pot was definitely an addiction. I don't care what anybody says to me. these are people that, the second their feet hit the floor in the morning, they were smoking pot. They smoked pot all day long, every single day. I what's your thought on that?
Well, that was me. That's what I used to do, and I personally, for me, it's I wish I could change it. I wish I could go back and change it because I realize now that it's living in for me, it's living in a cloud. It's not living in reality. It's covering up. It's making it okay for me to go through the day numb. And it
Mhm,
is, in my opinion, it is very addictive,
mhm,
very addictive. And for me, it was one of the, quitting drinking was easy compared to quitting smoking pot. And I don't know if that's because it's less obvious, and it's a way to kinda check out without people really knowing,
mhm.
and a way to roll through the day just being stoned. I mean, ugh, makes me sick.
It's
Now
so funny
for myself.
because I'm a terrible pot smoker. I'm just
I'm
I
happy for you.
I I literally do not function well. I would be sleeping most of the time. Yeah, I don't know how people do it because, yeah, that is not me at all. So, yeah, no, that's not gonna be you're not gonna see me as a, pothead stoner anytime soon.
I don't think you're missing much.
Um, alright, so I wanna know more about, like, you've told me in the past, this whole business that your mom when your dad left, and when you say your dad left, he went to rehab or he left, or both? Like
Well, he left, and again, I wasn't really around, as a six-year-old child, but, the story so my mom played it as he just didn't show up, and he wasn't available. From what I understand, there was no financial, help, and there's certainly, from my standpoint, no emotional support either. Now, whether or not that's because my mom has the ability to behave just like her father as a raging, crazy, mean person, and my dad just couldn't handle it, or then I heard that, like, she would send us somewhere else and he would show up and we wouldn't be there. Um, oh my gosh, Betsy, I'm sorry, I so lost track of the question.
no, that's okay. I was just so no, that explains it, but and then the second part of the question that I didn't really get to was, so now you're alone with your mom needs to make ends meet, and so she starts cleaning houses, is that what happened?
No, we lived before we moved here, we lived in Reno, Nevada, and she was a substitute teacher, and so this is just an idea of what she was like. So one night, and she also worked at a restaurant at night, and then, I had, like, a paper route, and my brother, like, cut grass, and we would give her all our money so that, she could pay the bills, and there were nights that we all slept in the same room together in sleeping bags because we couldn't afford to turn the heat on in the whole house. Um, but, so we lived in Reno then, and then when we moved to Idaho, um, in '79, a friend of hers, said, "Please come here, it's a great place," and she hooked her up with some house cleaning jobs, which ended up turning into, like, a property management business because this is a ski resort town and it's cold in the winter and dark and snowy, and someone was like, "Hey, can you get our car to the airport? We're landing at 10, and since we're coming in so late, will you bring eggs and coffee and half to the house for breakfast?" And so it just kind of developed into this whole huge property management business. And I started working with her when we moved here. I started out cleaning houses for her, and now I run my own.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And then at what point were you married, kids, the whole 9 yards?
I got married at 33 in 1997. I knew my ex-husband for about 5 years. We had a year and a half engagement because I was definitely not sure I wanted to marry him, and here's a serious sabotage. I married him even though I didn't love him, thinking that we were best friends and that I would fall in love with him, because who couldn't fall in love with their best friend? Um And then I wasn't sure about kids, so I didn't have my son until I was 38, and then I had my daughter when I was 39, so they're 17 months apart. And I was married for just shy of 24 years. My divorce took me 9 years and $150,000.
Oh my lord, what happened there?
He he's just I don't wanna blame and point fingers, I mean, it takes 2 to tango, but he's a raging alcoholic,
Mm.
and he's a procrastinator, like, if you look up procrastination, it probably has a picture of him. And it took him 7 years to get the taxes done, and because I was trying to get the taxes done, I got court ordered not to deal with any of that. So it took him a court order, and then even though he was court ordered, it took him 3 more years to finish the taxes, at which point it was the end of COVID, and he had closed our mechanic shop down and was able to prove that it wasn't worth any money. So I lost everything in my divorce, my house, my business, everything.
Man. I just wanna say court orders are bullshit. Divorce decrees are bullshit. Uh, no, seriously, you sign them, in a court of law, and you think that that's the word, right? That, you know, if any of these things on here are broken, they'll be easily fixed when we go back to court. The judge will just look at them and say, "Listen, you gotta do this. This is what you signed." And I'm here to tell all of you out there that it's a pile of bullshit. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat it because I know I'm not the only one that went through that. And it's really, really hard to not think that divorce attorneys and judges are in cahoots and, helping each other make money. Um, I know I'm probably gonna get a lot of, pushback from divorce attorneys out there that, may be, good divorce attorneys. But it just seems that when you're on the other side, when you're the person that's trying to be represented, that it's just falls short of the mark in so many cases. And, I'm sure on both sides. I've heard it from, the man's perspective, the women's perspective, but it's almost criminal that you have to go through a 9-year divorce, that people, once they get divorced, have to go back to court. It's well, what'd you say, $150,000?
Yes.
I think I'm pretty much the norm at tens of thousands of dollars, when you're starting to get between 10 and $30,000. And, yeah, it's just sad. It's just sad. But anyway, um, I digress. Uh, so, okay, so how did you lose your business in the divorce? I wanna know this. So at this point, you had your own you've taken it over from your mom, your own property management business, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I actually didn't take it over from my mom. When I got married, I wanted to buy her business, and she would not sell it to me because she thought that I was all set. So she didn't sell it to me. I started my own business, in 2013, and I think now she regrets not selling me her well, she's passed away, so but I think for a while afterwards, she was really bummed, but, so the way that the business split came down is so we owned a light industrial, unit, and, it was deemed worth about 550,000, let's say, and the property that the automotive repair sits on was worth about 550,000. Um, because he had signed bankruptcy papers before we got married and neglected to tell me when we bought the business in 2004, I'm first signer on all the loan documents because he can't be first signer.
Mm.
So when it came down to it, he hadn't paid any taxes because he didn't have the tax information done. So I had to buy myself out of the business, the automotive repair business, for over $550,000. And then my house was listed for 2.5. So I would have had to come up with like another $700,000 to buy him out of that, and he would not work with me. Um, I think that unfortunately he even though he's the one who had an affair for 9 years, wanted to crush me financially. He wanted me to hurt, and,
Why do you
um
think that is?
I think that is because of his own guilt. Like, everything was anything bad that ever happened was my fault, and anything good that ever happened was because of him. So, it's just easier to blame me. Like I said,
Ego.
he's still a raging alcoholic, and after Lily died, he's really gotten bad, and so it's just easier for him to blame me. It's just easier for him to not take responsibility, and financially, he came out in the end because the auto repair shop is a gold mine. Like, it's the only auto repair shop in this tiny little tourist community. So, it's he doesn't have to work, and, I work 16-hour days. So, yeah, so the judge said, "Okay, well, this property is worth 550 and this one's worth 550 and this business isn't worth anything because he took all the money and hid it and showed that for 3 months Ketchum Auto made no money because he closed for COVID." And the judge couldn't see past that or look at the books from the past and how much money it had made, and that COVID was just a factor and what would happen after COVID. So, yeah, I lost it all. I had to give up my home, I had to move out, and I had to give him $550,000.
So how did you rebuild?
Oh, well, I moved into my sister's basement, which I'm still here, and I it took me a while. I tell you what, when after losing Lily in 19 and then the divorce thing in 21, oh, I might tear up, sorry.
It's okay.
Um, I was in a dark place. That whole self-worth component comes flooding back, and it just took me down a very dark, dark hole, and, I isolated, and I went inward, and oh, sorry, I should have turned this off. Um, and, I listened to, a lot of Carl Jung, and I'm a fighter, like, living in the childhood that I lived in survival mode. um, I know how to do that really well. Like, I've practiced my whole life, so I finally just was like, well, I had to work because I didn't have any money, so unless I wanted to live in a cardboard box or have my sister pay for me for the rest of my life, I needed to pull up my big girl pants, and I just did it one day at a time, one foot in front of the other, and sometimes not even thinking about it. Like, I have employees, I have clients, I needed to show up and, to the best of my ability, and that's what I did. I just day by day, just every day showing up.
Because you don't get stuck in victim.
Well, let's not get carried away, but I got stuck in victim in my basement in the dark, right? And I try not to wear it on my sleeve. I don't know that I'm always successful at that, but I'm not a victim, right? Like, I know that in my core,
Yeah,
that my childhood was exactly the way it was supposed to be, because if it was different, I wouldn't get to be who I am today. And I might not be having this wonderful conversation with you because I could be a completely different person and on a completely different path. But I realize now it's the way it's supposed to be, and I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And for some reason, survival and getting past my own feelings, my lack of self-worth is my journey, right? It's part of wherever I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing.
yeah, and you've been knocked down. You alluded to it, and we maybe mentioned it slightly here, but, your other knockdown was, your daughter passing away, and I I saw you not too long after that, and I saw the toll it took on you and how heartbroken you were, as anybody would be. And my nephew lives in the same area that you live in, and you've been able to talk to him lately. And I was talking to him the other day, and he said, "Did her?" daughter die?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "That's what I thought. I know it because the entire town was mourning her." And he said it was really amazing how it affected so many people, being in a small town like that. And, so, yeah, he even saw what a devastating effect it had on the community, so I can only imagine what you went through.
Wow, it was pretty amazing. There was probably 1,500 people at her services, and I was blown away. It was the support, and it was it was incredible, and it's still there. Like, I still people ask my sister all the time how I'm doing, and it is a small community, and wow, I can't believe it he knew about it because 'cause I've actually never met him.
Yeah, and she was 17?
15, 15.
15, sorry, 15,
Yeah,
okay.
she would be 21 now.
Yeah, that's amazing. I
Yeah.
You don't ever get over something like that, I would imagine. I have not lost a child, but I can imagine. I always say that when I think if, I lost a child, I'd be in the fetal position in the corner for a very long time, and somebody would have to come drag me out eventually, but, you don't ever get over it, I don't think, but it somehow gets easier? I don't know. I mean, how do you say that? I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I think everybody's journey is different through this. God bless those people who lose their children to suicide because that is another completely different journey. But so yesterday was 5 years and 8 months since her death. And, it's for me, it's been like shock and denial for the first few years. Like, and I was in a fetal position in my bed with the curtains down for a long, long time, months. And, uh, and now I'm kinda, after 2.5 years, I started wearing colored clothes again, and then recently in the last few months, I've really been struggling with it again, like, just for instance, you and your daughter, and hearing about the things that you're gonna do together, and, my girlfriends going to lunch with their daughters, and it's tough. I wanna say it gets easier, for me, it hasn't. I think, people say that it does change, and sometimes I want it to change, and sometimes I don't in fear of not missing her. Like, I feel almost like it's my responsibility as her mom to miss her, and yeah, it's just,
And yet she wouldn't want you to hurt, though.
oh my god, no.
Yeah,
No. No, absolutely not, but you gotta tell your cells that, you gotta tell your whole body that, you give birth to somebody and they're part of you, and it just feels like this part of me is missing.
mhm.
I like an amputee, like, without their leg or their arm, but it's kinda more full body for me. My sister asked me the other day, "So, you're wearing all black again, and you seem sort of out of sorts, and, where do you feel it in your body?" And I'm like, "I feel it from between my toes to the ends of my hairs."
Yeah. I ca I just can't even, um, I can't imagine. I can't even, like, I look at you all the time in awe because you are such a giving, joyful person that I know the pain underneath, but you're so willing to still give to people and to give the joy and to not go completely inward and, be a taker, 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 suck it all in, right? And I'm sure you have moments like that, right? I mean, we all do. But I mean, I see in you just this resilience, this just, I don't know, just unstoppable, I'm gonna keep figuring out what it is that I need to live this joyous life. And you were saying before how had your childhood not been the way it was, that you wouldn't be here. Well, you wouldn't have known me because we wouldn't have ended up at the same self-development program. But well, actually, you would have known me somehow probably because we were meant to meet. But um, so so okay, so you said um, that it shaped you and you are where you are right now, and you've talked to me about how you want to get into health, nutrition, counseling, just really giving back, right? Is that kind of, I mean, would you say that's kind of how you have gotten to that place, is because of what you've gone through? And you had the addiction, and well, you've had a lot of alcoholic people in your life, right?
Oh, yes, mom, dad, grandparents,
Husband.
husband.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about this kind of next chapter that you wanna move into.
Oh, okay, yes, I would love I'm studying right now to become a health life coach. Um, I think just having the experiences that I've had, and I've actually always been super interested in sort of psychology, just as a general terminology, feelings, emotions, how it all works. Like my go-to listen is Carl Jung. I don't think most people choose that every morning.
No. It's a little heavy for most people first thing in the morning.
So, yeah, it's something that's always interested me, and I've been, sort of caught up in survival. And now I wanna move out of that space. I don't wanna live in survival anymore. I wanna live in a space that, fulfills me, and I think what would give me the most fulfillment would be helping people realize that where they've come from and where they're going can be 2 different places, and they wouldn't be who they are, just like me, if they hadn't had their life experiences. So how do we turn it all from victimhood into a lesson? Like, what do I get to learn from that experience, right?
Right.
Everything except for childhood death. I don't know that that's an experience that I really wanna, think that there's a lesson in, but,
And
all
why
of
why don't you think that there's a lesson in that?
I don't know, maybe it's just too painful still. Maybe,
I don't
uh
disagree. I'm I I mean, I'm right there with you, but people say that there is, and you know, I don't know.
Well, when I figure it out, I'll let you know because I
Okay.
haven't figured that component out yet. You know, I guess maybe part of the lesson is just, um, opening up a whole 'nother level of emotions and where we get to go with that. And maybe part of her dying is me becoming a health life coach, and maybe if
Yes.
I can help just one person turn their life around and become the person that they wanna be, and wake up every morning and go, "Who do I wanna be today? Wow, I get to be that person. I get to make that choice." If I
Yes.
can inspire one person, like, wow, to change their life and to change, like, the whole planetary energy field, right? Like if people are feeling good about themselves and living their best version of themselves, I think it changes everybody from like beta into the next level of energy, which is so healing for everybody, right? Like you can't transmit what you don't have, but if you have it and you're transmitting it, I think we can help others
Yes.
without
Uh,
even knowing it,
yes.
right?
Absolutely. Have you ever had this experience where you're having a just amazing day and you're not really sure why? You just woke up, you're on top of the world, and you just have all this positive energy inside you, and you start walking around doing your daily errands, going to the grocery store, going to the pharmacy, and people just look up at you and smile even though you didn't even initiate anything. And when I experienced that, I was like, "Oh, I didn't even smile and say hi to that person first." They just, like they were looking down, and they looked up and looked over at me and smiled and said hi, and I and then I realized it's just the energy I'm in today, right? If I would have been in a negative energy, even if I would have been looking at them, I don't think I would have had the same response, right? Because the energy that you give out is the energy that you get back. And
Completely.
it's a real thing, people, say, "Oh, that's such woo-woo talk," and, whatever, you're saying that because 'cause you've read self-development books and gone to self-development seminars and things like that, but it's not. It is a real thing, if anybody wants to go out and try that today. Uh, sometimes sometimes I play a little game where, I was in the airport the other day, and I was walking to the parking garage, and I thought, "I wonder how many people" it was early in the morning, "I wonder how many people I can make smile." And, the funny thing was that at the end of it, the men, which is funny because they were the ones that had the most stern look on their face and, kind of looking down, looking straight ahead, right, whatever. Um, and they would look over and smile, and then I would say good morning to them and, whatever. Um, I got a couple women to smile at me and say good morning, but if I made eye contact with them, they tended to look away right away. So, yeah, it's a fun little game to play if, try to brighten somebody's day. Um, the other day, we had, there was a group of us, and we had this waiter at lunch, and I just asked him, I said, "Do you like to dance?" And he's like, "I do." And then he said and he got, like, all excited, and he's like, last year I took this class where I learned how to do the waltz." And he's like I said, "Well, can you show us?" He's like, "Well, normally I have a dance partner," and, one of my friends popped up and, she's like, "I'll dance with you." And so there was our waiter, doing the waltz in the restaurant at lunchtime, and he came back and he said, "Oh my god, you guys, you made my day. I can't even tell you how you made my day." And it's something so stupid and so simple, right? But yeah, that energy that you put out there, that ripple effect of if you can help one person change their energy, change that vibration that they're on, it's huge.
Very huge, and plus, isn't it the vibration that you wanna live in every day,
Yeah.
right? Like, what a beautiful gift, not only first and foremost for ourselves, but for others, and I think women can be intimidated by a woman as beautiful as you.
Oh, well, thank you. You would smile at me if I smiled at you.
Well, yes, I'm that kinda girl.
We got to be roomies. I mean, that was fun. We had never met each other before. I mean, not roomies as in we were in the same bedroom, but roomies as in we were in the same house together. And that was so much fun. I just remember both of us waking up super early in the morning. Nobody else was awake. It was still dark out. And there we were in the kitchen making coffee. Oh, it was so awesome.
Yeah, one of
Uh,
the best days of my life getting to meet you, Betsy.
yes, me too. It was so and I have to say, coming from that female thing again, that female relationship thing. I have a tendency to have a little bit more male energy than I have female energy. And so I do find it hard sometimes to relate with women. And I know part of that is my own, it's in my own head, making up my own stories and things like that. But whenever I get into a situation where somebody says, "Hey, you're going to be rooming with all these other women," I'm like, "Oh God, are you serious?" I'm like, "How is this going to go? I don't know how this is going to go." Um, and yeah, you were a breath of fresh air when you came through because you and I are very much alike that way. We're not, girly girls and, we're not gonna sit around and talk about, getting our nails done and things like that. So, yeah, but I don't know if you ever feel like that. I've met a lot of women lately that have had that same experience where they're like, "No, most of my friends are guys, and I just have a hard time sometimes, relating with women." Um, and it's funny because like lately it's been strong women, powerful women, um, successful women, things like that, that I've been running into that have had that experience, so
You know, I have I believe that it begins with the connection with our mothers. I
mm,
believe that if we have a very strong, compassionate, empathetic connection with our mothers, I think it changes how we resonate with other women.
yeah,
'Cause I know for me, I didn't have a really great, strong relationship with my mom, and neither did my sister, and we both tend to have a hard time with women.
yeah, and
That
it's funny you should say that because I didn't have I a strong emotional relationship with my mom. I was the youngest of 5, and I kind of always felt that I needed to take care of myself. I don't know if that's just something I was born with, or if it was something that was learned along the way, um, where I felt like, she was taking care of so many other kids and so many other things and dealing with the terrible relationship that she was in with my dad, that I felt like I had to take care of myself. But I was never that kid that in middle school, if I was, heartbroken because, my first crush, didn't like me or whatever it was, right? I never went to my mom. I never went to my mom for anything emotional.
me either.
Yeah.
She wasn't available.
Mhm.
Yeah, she just was not available.
And I don't know if mine wasn't available or if I made that story up that she wasn't available. I have no idea. I really don't know.
I don't think as a child you make that story up. I think that the adult is the adult in the relationship, and they are the primary caregivers, your mom, and I think that the burden lies on them, it doesn't lie on the child.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
can't. You have no idea, we're
Yeah.
children, so you learn my guess is you learn that behavior because of survival to take care of yourself, and my therapist who my mom told that I was the monster said, we're children. There are parents, and we need them to show us how to do this stuff. We aren't born knowing, and again, it comes back to, like, how my mom was raised too. Like, her dad was a control freak, and in the end, he actually held a gun to my aunt, who's the psychologist. He held a gun to her head, and my mom grew up in huge abuse and in the depression and boarding school and nuns, beating their knuckles, and so I have to rewind to whatever her experiences was, and that's where I said, we only have the tools that we have.
Right.
And I think we're blessed as this generation, Betsy, you and I, because I think we are the generation that started to realize that, like, when my husband called me Joyce, I realized, I can change this, and I don't think that our parents ever had that information because as we all know, as time goes on, there's more information.
Mhm.
And things aren't kept, behind closed doors anymore. There's a lot more discussion about what's going on where there wasn't before.
Right.
So
You didn't
we're
go to therapy. You didn't talk about mental illness. You didn't talk about you didn't even talk about alcoholism or drug addiction. I mean, that was everything was swept under the rug.
yeah, and I think a lot of their emotions and their feelings were too, like, children were seen and not heard,
Mhm.
right? And they were taught everything that my mom taught me. But I think that, again, because of a lot of the information that's come out, you and I are blessed and everyone else following because it's it's not okay to just be seen and not heard. We don't want to just sweep everything under the rug because that's where, the drug addictions begin. The anorexia and bulimia begin. The self-worth, the self-sabotaging, all that begins there as children.
Yeah.
And now you're forming your adult women relationships based on what you've learned on sort of a cellular level and what you've been trained all your life. But you have the power now to go, whoa, I can look at that and I choose to do it differently.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's all about stopping that generational trauma. right? That, we like you said, we now have the tools to do that. Not everybody chooses to do it, but there are tools out there now where we can seek help and we can make that decision to raise our kids a different way. And we're all gonna make mistakes, right? I mean, you're never going to be perfect, but just moving in that right direction, just, like, I I called my kids for a family meeting, which I had never done, and, it was very uncomfortable for me, and there were moments, like, when I said, "Hey, let's do this," to the time that we were gonna do it because it they don't live with me, so we had to plan a date in the future, and I kept thinking to myself, "Oh my god, what did I do?" Like, what what they're gonna think I'm crazy, and how about this for all the stories I told myself? I first of all, I'm like, they're gonna be super uncomfortable. They're probably gonna cancel at the last minute because they don't wanna come. Or even when I sent the text out or however I think it was a text, yeah. I thought, "Oh, they're not gonna answer the text, right, whatever." And everybody was very responsive. Everybody showed up. Um, you could tell there was a little bit of discomfort because our family is not the type of, let's sit down and, dive into our feelings type of family. We're a very loving family, but when it comes to those tough conversations, my kids have probably learned this from me. I avoid, tough conversations, I'm like doing the matrix, like, whoa. And you know, trying to get out of the way of those. So anyway, but once it started, it was so cool
Yay.
to see them all talk, right? It was like and almost as if like that relief, like, "Oh, I can say this thing that has been bothering me because now I'm in a space where this is okay and it's acceptable and it's already started. The ball is already rolling, so I can keep it going." Um, so I did ask my son who's 28, I said, "So when should we" I said it to everybody. I said, "When should we do this again?" And he looked at me and he said, "How about in 28 years?" And I looked at him like, "'Cause you're 28," and he goes, "Yeah, I figured that if I waited 28 years to have this discussion, I can wait 28 years again."
Wait,
Um,
wait, wait, you stopped. I haven't seen you totally blacked off my computer. I have not
oh,
heard the last probably minute that
oh,
you yeah, you went away. There was like a
oh,
glitch and then it said it lost connection.
oh, that's weird.
So
Yeah, so evidently there was something left because you completely left you logged out of the window, and then I guess you just logged back in, so, you only missed about 30 seconds.
Okay,
mhm.
okay. I don't know where I left off, but what I was saying was that, my son, when I asked everybody, "When should we do this again?" My son, who's 28, said, "Yeah, in 28 years." So
Aw.
I mean, he's always the one that's gonna give me shit about that stuff, but he's also the one that is going to open up and talk a lot in him. So yeah, so what I'm saying is that there's always time to change, right? Just because my kids are now pretty much grown up, 21, 23, 28, 30, doesn't mean that we can't start changing our way of being in our family union. So we can make those changes and we can start, I hate to keep using the word tool, but it really just does apply. We can, pick up different tools and try different things. So I think that's really cool. And by the way, everybody, the voice you heard was it was Daniel Anderson from Audio Alchemy Productions. So he is the podcast producer. He helps make all this happen. And I'm not really sure what happened there because I didn't log back in. I think I somehow just lost connection and came back. Um, maybe what I was saying was
It's
not
just on Tina's
important.
side. Sometimes when the internet kind of lags out, it'll disconnect, and then it'll
Oh,
reconnect.
okay. All right. So we're here though. That's the important thing. Um, so where were we? I want to talk a little bit, Tina, just real quick before we head out about what it is that I mean, I know you said it was your survival as a child that helps you push past this stuff, but is there anything that you do any ritual you have, anything other than Carl Jung, um, that you go to in the time when you're feeling weak and you have to remember that, "Hey, I've gotten through worse. I've gotten through other things before. I can do this." What do you draw upon for your strength? Because obviously you have strength. I know that you sometimes feel like you don't, but trust me, you have a shit ton of strength. So what would you say that is?
Well, thanks, Betsy. It's just who I am. I don't know, going outside is always a good place for me to get grounded and get my feet back on the ground, and, I really it's I don't have a strategy. I know that sounds straight crazy, but, I guess for me, it is Carl Jung, and it is, Dr. Jordan Peterson, and it is, like, the desire to become the best version of myself, and again, I don't know, it's just who I am, like, I just keep finding ways, looking for ways to feel better, to be, again, just the best version of myself. That's what I want.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how to instill that want in other people, like, I don't know if it's just drive that I've always had. Um, I know that I guess one of the things that keeps me going is I wanna have a better life. I wanna be a better mom. It's just what I want. So
What's it
I
what's
guess
your what's your definition of a better life?
my definition of a better life for myself is feeling good. Whatever I do, I wanna feel good inside. That's my definition of a better life. Like, I've lived my life not feeling good, and I don't choose to live that anyway. And whatever that means for me, whatever path I need to look down, and not every path is gonna be right. Like, I have to try, like, I equate it kinda to Obamacare, right? Like, when Obama was starting his healthcare, nobody, there's all this and all that, and we don't wanna do it, but you gotta start somewhere. Right? Like, you can't the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step, um, and I gotta take the first step. No one else is gonna do that for me. So, I guess it just comes back to, asking myself every morning, "What do I want today? Who do I wanna be?" And for me, I have pretty strong morals and values, and I wanna be that person. I wanna be that energy level. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense, and, the just kind of what I heard there was just the moving forward, right? And this is what I see you doing, and some days you're really good at it, right? And other days not so much, and that's like what you were saying. Sometimes you go down this road and it's the right road, and sometimes you have to, "Uh-oh, maybe I need to turn right now and find another road." And that's really what it's all about is just trial and error and moving forward, and when you stop moving forward, you may as well just be going backward, you know?
Exactly.
And never giving up on your hopes and dreams, and, if it's something like, "I wanna be happy," define what that means to you. Does that mean being free of guilt? Does that mean what does that mean? And going after it and figuring out, it speaking of guilt, I had a friend who would always say to me, "Live a guilt-free life." You have to forgive, live in forgiveness, all this stuff. And I was like, "Well, yeah, that's nice to say, but I don't know that I can forgive that person. I don't know if I can forgive myself for that." And it's nice to say, but how do you do it, right? And it took me a long time to figure out how to do that, how to let go and really live in forgiveness. And when you do, it's the most amazing feeling ever. Now, am I always gonna be at that high of I'm totally living in forgiveness? No. But I know that I was there, and I know how to get back there again if I ever fall back a little bit, which I think is so cool. And you mentioned Jordan Peterson. I just have to quick tell a funny story. So this is podcast number 7, so fairly new, very new. And I'm thinking of, who do I want to have on the podcast? And I was talking to my boyfriend, and he said, jokingly, I said, I want to have Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson on my podcast. And he said, "Well, you can have Jordan Peterson on your podcast. We know his brother." And, uh, and so I was like, "Yeah, I'll just call, his brother up and say, 'Hey,' or maybe I'll just call Jordan up and say, 'Hey, I know your brother, do you want to come be on my podcast?'" And then he said, "What you could do is you could have his brother on. His brother's name is Joel. You just have Joel Peterson on, and it'll just say, next podcast, um, it'll be Jordan Peterson, and then underneath just say brother really small." They would never know. But wow, isn't that amazing? Now here's a racket, here's something that we all struggle with, because what's the first thing that goes through my head when I say, or when somebody says to me, you should have Jordan Peterson on your podcast? Right away, who am I to ask Jordan Peterson to be on my podcast? I'm on
You're
podcast.
Betsy Martell, baby.
Right, right, but how is it that we constantly beat ourselves up and tell ourselves we're, going back to that whole, not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. And we all do it to ourselves. And it's so funny how we're so willing to beat ourselves up, but yet lift other people up, right?
Right.
Yeah, we don't wanna let other people down. In fact, we'll say yes to things we shouldn't even say yes to, but we'll say no to ourselves all the time and let ourselves down. It's just crazy. So,
I think there's a big shift to be had there. I think that forgiving ourselves first is super key. I think there's this idea of perfectionism, right?
mm,
Like, we can't let that facade down that we're human. Like, it's okay to be human. As my other therapist, it's okay to be messy. You're human, right?
yep.
And we're all just kind of thrown in here and none of us have really been taught what to do, but there's this whole concept that we're perfect and we have to hold that facade. And I think that forgiveness is such a beautiful gift for ourselves first, you
Oh,
know?
for sure. I honestly, it's the forgiveness of yourself that's the only way you're gonna forgive other people. In my opinion, I really think that it's the most beautiful gift you can give yourself, but it's the only way to get to really truly forgiving other people.
Key.
Because yeah, what were you
Well,
gonna
and I
say?
think a lot of it is learning that we can be messy. It's it's who we are. We aren't perfect. We're human beings. And if we I think for me, allowing myself to go, I'm just a human being, and I don't have to do it perfect. I mean, I strive to do the best I can, and perfection is always, what we want, but I've also let it go too. It's like, am I striving for something that's completely impossible? So again, I just come back to what makes me feel good about who I am
Yeah.
in this moment. And I think for me, it all falls away from there. It's like, so like so you're in the airport and this woman is smiling at you and you're like, hey, you fucking leave me alone, or whatever,
Yeah.
give him the finger. And who ends up feeling bad after that?
Me, the person that said, not the person that smiled.
No, the person who's like, beat it, leave me alone.
Right.
Right. I mean, in my experience, every time I have reacted or been unkind or come from a space of, victim, it's not a good look. And ultimately, I'm the one who ends up feeling like, definitely worthless, like I think that we set out to hurt somebody else and it comes back on us. So feeling good is where I come from,
And
you know?
it's interesting, you talked about reactions. So, have you ever done this where you come from a place of love and giving and somebody just shits all over it, right? And it used to be for me that then I would react negatively to it, right? That I would say, I can't believe that I came from love. I came from this good place and that person just shit all over it, right? Then I realized that that's their reaction and I'm responsible for my reaction. So if I came from a place of love, I can leave it right there. I don't need to react to their negative reaction. Their negative reaction is something going on with them. And as long as I open up a space that's from love and is comfortable and is open and they don't want to walk into it, that's on them. And I don't need to be upset by it. But I think so many times we even we fear even stepping into that place, right? Like, I'm not gonna be vulnerable. I'm not gonna give from this place of love because what if that person shits on it? It's gonna make me feel bad. And it doesn't need to. And that's the whole thing. We are responsible for the way we react to things.
Completely. But I think that most people don't live in that space yet. They're not sure. You know, like, one interesting thing for me is, like, I never realized I had a choice. You know what
Mm.
I mean? Like,
Mhm.
we all know that we have choices, but I I never realized that who I wanted to be was a choice. Like, I just thought it was you just reacted, you just went through life and you didn't really think about it, or I didn't think about it. So, um and I don't know if some of that comes with age and experience, and a lot of Carl Jung and Jordan Peterson, or not, but yeah, I mean, when we react to their reaction, then ultimately we don't feel good. And so, again, yeah, I just wanna feel good every
Yeah.
day as
It's
much as
all
I can.
okay, so I've told this story probably before on this podcast, I don't know, but I tell the story all the time because I love it. Is I was in the, Delta Sky Club, and I was at the bar, and I'm sitting there, and this guy walks up to order a drink, and he asked the bartender how she's doing, so or "How's your day going?" And she said, "It's going great." And he said, "Oh, I'm glad to hear that." And she stopped, and she turned and looked him right in the eyes and said, "It's a choice." And I
Oh,
thought, "Hot damn." Like, she's so right. How her day is going is a choice.
it is. We can choose to live in heaven or hell every single day, right?
Yeah,
Like, my son is super angry right now. He's 23 and he's just angry, and I often find myself saying to him, "You can live in heaven or hell. It only happens here.
yeah,
Like, it's all going on in here. There's nothing really happening out here. It's all right here, and you have to come back to here and how you wanna feel."
yeah.
And, I don't know if you've heard of, Sadhguru. Have you heard of him?
No,
He's a wonderful man, YouTube him, Sadhguru, and he said, "Who says we're not living in heaven?" And that was like hitting a wall for me. I was like, "Oh my god.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
this
it's
is
what
it. This
and
is
then
heaven." Like, we create it in our own heads and our own bodies, because it's all one connection, right? Body, mind,
Yeah,
spirit. So, I think, if we just come from this place of wanting to feel good about who we are, I think there's a huge shift. I mean, I think that potentially all that stuff just starts to fall into place, but I think we have to start becoming aware, and we have to realize we have a choice.
yeah, yeah, no, it's a and I think that word, that's the word, that's the word I'm choosing for today's podcast, choice. Because seriously, when I asked you before, what is it that, has gotten you through all of your hardship in your life? And you said, well, it's just who I am. But really what it comes down to is a choice. You choose to look for a happier life. You choose to get up every day and to keep moving forward. That's the stuff that you choose. So
Definitely.
choice is our word.
Choice. I love it. It's a great word. It's a
Yeah.
great word.
Better than moist. Everybody hates that word.
That's right.
Thanks, Daniel. Ah, and to lighten things up, since we're talking about words that people don't like, I have found that, people don't like the word areola. How does that resonate with you guys?
I disagree completely.
No,
I think it's a
Daniel,
beautiful word.
I didn't ask if you like it. I asked if you like the word.
Oh, yes, I like the word also.
Well, the word
It's
has, some context behind it, so yes. I
and
can't believe
texture.
anyone would like yes, and texture. Can't believe anybody wouldn't like that word.
I so here's the thing, I found it was funny that people didn't like the word. I had this one friend who didn't like it, and then I found out this weekend, if try it sometime, say it and see how many people tell you to stop saying it. It makes them feel uncomfortable maybe. Uh, there's a lot of cringing going on in in the audience of this podcast right now. We're saying moist and areola. All right,
Let
so
me ask you this though, do you think that's because people aren't in touch with their bodies?
it could be. It could be.
I mean, we don't wanna talk about that. Well, let's say, first of all, talking about sex is taboo. It's all over everywhere, and sex sells everything, but, nobody wants to really talk
Right.
about it, yet it's one of the most human instincts we have,
Yes.
right? And so, any of those words, I think people cringe from,
Yeah.
and they're embarrassed, right, too, like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just it's funny. But yeah, you can get a good reaction. I never thought of it because I guess I never thought of it as being like a cringy word or an uncomfortable word. Um, but it's just an anatomical part. I mean, I could start saying all sorts of uncomfortable words like vulva and things like that, but I'll stop at that. Yeah, it's funny because some people there's just shame and embarrassment put around all that stuff.
which is so
And
sad.
I
Because
know.
again, it's one of our basic human instincts, and who doesn't like it?
Right.
I mean, I was sexually abused as a child, but I still like sex.
Oh, that brings me to, gosh, now we're, like, on a roller coaster of a conversation now. Um, we, are doing a community service project, and we chose, SAFE in Austin. It's called SAFE, SAFE, in Austin, Texas, and it is for, kinda like a safe haven and, recovery and everything for abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, and it's just this really cool organization where they have emergency shelter, they have counseling, all sorts of great things for, both sexual and physical abuse, so pretty cool.
That's very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, this is something I've realized lately, and it's mind-boggling to me and incredibly sad for me, is the amount of people that have been sexually abused is outrageous. I mean, absolutely outrageous. I don't know what the statistics are, but I think somebody said 80%. That seemed high to me, but I don't know. Maybe we'll have to research that and see,
So,
but
interestingly enough, I was chatting with my brother the other day, and, we had a gentleman living with us after my dad left, and we were pretty stranded for cash, and he was, like, our ski team coach, and he was molesting me. And I was having this conversation with my brother, and he's like, we were talking about how different each child perceives their childhood to be, right? Like,
mhm. Yep.
he's like, oh, I don't understand why you're saying, all this stuff about our childhood was so traumatic and stuff. And I was like, oh, well, I won't say his name, was molesting me. And I think he might have been molesting Cynthia too, younger sister. And he's like, no, he molested me too. And I was blown away. Never in my wildest dreams.
Isn't that
So,
crazy?
yeah, I think, when you start thinking about all this incest with families, and I think, it's probably 90% of the population. I think 80 is too low.
And I just had a revelation as you were saying that. If there's that many people who've been sexually abused, how many people are sexual abusers?
Exactly. Well, you learn it, right, as a child, and so that's what we do. And, and then you start getting back into the drugs and the alcohol because there's all these kids that have no parents who have parents who don't know how to parent. And then they get lost in the self-loathing, the no self-worth, and then comes in the alcohol and the drugs. And, I know in my marriage, when my ex drank, things got pretty physical, violent, abusive, with my kids and with me. So I think that there becomes the boundary is broken when we're intoxicated or using some sort of mind altering drug. And I think it makes it easier for
Mhm.
our, whims or desires or whatever you want to call them, these urges. I think it's easier for people to make them happen at that point.
Right.
And when you look at the levels of drug and alcohol abuse in the United States, it's insane.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you wonder why, but you don't wonder why, because then you start looking at some of the things that you and I have been discussing, which is, parents not being available for their kids because they don't have the tools, but ultimately it's a vicious cycle. So we need to break that cycle. We need to help people become more aware through your podcasts,
Yes.
my coaching.
Yes, absolutely. I can't wait for you to get going on that. I'm so excited.
I'm hoping to get certified. I've been a little busy with my rentals and trying to get my life back together, but, I'm hoping in June I'll finish my certification, so I'm pretty excited too.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool. Well, definitely, when you start that, we'll have you back on the podcast and promote the crap out of you because I know that you're just gonna kill it. It's gonna be awesome. So, so excited for that. But, I think we'll wrap it up now where we're at. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave in the spirit of pushing past self-doubt, pushing past fear, applying it to your life?
I do. I I recommend, if someone is searching for that or in a space of victim or not feeling good, I believe what works for me is a few big, deep belly breaths to begin with. And then not necessarily coming up with a plan, but making that choice and that commitment to myself. And it's a big commitment, that I wanna be the best version of myself, and that's not and that doesn't end, right? Like, it keeps evolving because the more I grow, the more I become educated, the more I learn that there's more.
Mhm.
There's more for me, and I wanna feel good, and I wanna live in heaven every day, not hell. And
Right.
I think that, if you're stuck and you're doing drugs and alcohol, then I recommend finding someone to talk to and looking at our lives and looking at ourselves and going, "Who do I wanna be? Who am I?" First of all. Like, and what do I wanna be doing? I
Right.
think that's a really good place to start, no matter where you are, I mean, even if you just had a drink or whatever, you come to this place of, "What am I doing? Why am I doing this?" It's okay to slow down. It's okay to go inward. Everything is so out here nowadays. Social media, we gotta be this, we gotta be that, we gotta look like this. And I think we just all kind of need to go in and go, what works for me? Who am I? What am I doing? What do I want to be doing?
Yeah. And strive for, we've heard this a million times before. Strive for excellence. You don't have to go for perfection. Perfection is unattainable. And all it's ever going to do when you strive for perfection is frustrate you. And you're going to stall out and you're going to be frustrated. So I say if you try to live in excellence and that's what you go for, that's what you strive for, then that will keep you moving forward each day. And like you said, you're never going to get to that end game really because it's always going to be evolving, right? Once you get to this level, you realize you can get to that level, and then you realize you can get to that level, and that's what it's all about, is that constant leveling up, just moving forward every day, going toward excellence and giving yourself grace when you're not having a perfect day, when you didn't do the perfect thing, when you didn't go down the right road. That's okay. That's getting messy. We're all human. And the only way you're gonna get something done is by getting messy and trying it and just going for it.
Well, and I think we have to remember that it's about the experience and the journey, right? Like, I know for me, if I'm not careful at just future tripping or living in the past, I need to really focus on now, and that now is all that matters. And I don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow, and I'd like to get to the point where I don't need to know or want to know, um, to be able to just live in the present. The past is gone. I can't fix it. I can't change it. I don't want to stay in my head. Oh, I should have, had this conversation with my kids at the family meeting, or I should have read my text message, or, let's just, how do I move forward? How do I stay in living in heaven and in the present moment and moving forward? Like, but is that, you have to make that choice or that decision to do that too, right? Like, some people are in places where that's really hard to grasp, and how do we help them?
Yeah, and that is a really good question because I think there's a lot of people that we all encounter that we want to help, and you're not gonna be able to help everybody. It might not be on the timeline you want it to be on. If you don't give up, hopefully someday, there will be a difference that you make. Um, but yeah, I just think I think so often that we just think that we're not effective, that we can't make a difference. And I think that's bullshit. I think even if you make a tiny difference, it's a difference. And
I
I think, yeah, I think too often we, have you ever done this? You try to fix somebody, right? And it's this you want this huge transformation for them. And when you're not successful, you're like, well, why did I even try? It didn't work, that type of thing. But it's just every day pouring some love into people and doing your best, and that's all we can do.
I think, one thing that I learned in my, health life coach is, baby steps. Like,
Mm,
let's break it down. And they also say those who need, more support, more help, more guidance need smaller steps, right?
mm,
Like, let's say you can't get out of bed, physically. So let's say you try to sit up for 30 seconds and you build on that, right? And then the next day, maybe you sit up for 32 seconds, right? Or whatever it is. And then we just have to remember that, or for me, I have to remember that I don't have to conquer the world, in the next 5 minutes. Um, I can just take the next best indicated step for myself. What is that? And look for it and take that path and go, oh, shoot, this is the wrong way. I gotta hang a Louie, and like for me, like forgiving myself and being okay with that, right? Like it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be messy. And I think for me, I gotta live in that. I can't live in the fact that, that so I went down that path. That's in the past already, right? Like that's gone. Like I've
yep,
turned left. So I can't worry about the fact that I tried to have this relationship with somebody who wasn't available. Again, like that's my go-to. Let's pick somebody who's not available because that's my mom. That's my role model. Not
yep,
available, right? So I can't tell you how many times I've stumbled and fallen on my husband, my ex-husband, like, right? Like, "Hey, let's pick somebody who's not available." Um, so I think, again, we just back to baby steps, back to the basics. Like, how, if I'm not feeling good in this moment, what's a choice? What's a path? What's a direction I can go in so that I can feel good about myself? Do I need a drink of water? Do I need to sit down? What do I need to do? Do I need to forgive myself? Do I need to call my daughter or my son? Do I need to call a family? What's the next best indicated step? And how can I help who, if it involves somebody else, how can I help them create the next best step and not come from reaction, come
Right.
from love and compassion, and that a lot of times for me, and this is kind of a recovery thing, is leading by action, not a lot of blah blah. It's like, how do you do it? Like with my son, his dad is an alcoholic. I am not. So I don't preach a lot about anything. I role model. I'm just,
Yes.
what, if I'm going to live it, if I'm going to speak it and preach it and encourage it, then I got to live it. It's got
Right.
to be who I am. Right. So for me, it's just getting back to the basics and again, feeling good, like, that's where I am my best. That's where I treat people my best. If I'm coming from crunchy, sometimes it's better if I choose to just come home and, take a break and some big belly breaths and get a drink of water and not go out to the party or go later or whatever it is you're doing, right?
Yeah. And I always tell people, make a list of the things that make you feel good, things that you've noticed can help you pivot out of that bad space, right? So for some people, it's listening to music, going on a walk, sitting down and meditating, like you said, doing some breath work, whatever it is. I mean, I don't care whatever it is. It could be stupid, right? It could be what really pivots me out of this is, hammering a nail into a piece of wood. I don't really care what it is, but pay attention to those things that help you get out of that bad space. Write them down because when you're in that bad space, sometimes you can't even think about what it is that brings you back out, right? Because sometimes you're so in it that it's like a fog. And
Hey, I just wanna touch on that real quick, like,
yeah.
I wanna say to you and to everyone, it's like, and it's okay.
Uh-huh.
It's okay to be in that space, and if it takes more than 3 big, deep belly breaths or pounding the nail into the piece of wood, it's okay too,
Yeah.
right? Like, it doesn't have to be all this and all that, and sometimes, like, for me, like, potentially with Lily dying, it was like, if I don't think about it, if I don't deal with it, if I don't talk about it, maybe it'll just go away. And I think that we tend to sort of, go around and we don't go through. And I think
Yes.
we miss a lot of our journey if I don't walk right through that space. And if I have to come in and isolate for a week or whatever it takes. I mean, I isolated for over 2 years, and maybe still tend to do it a little bit to protect myself and to sort of get grounded. So I just wanna say that, we don't think that 3 big, deep belly breaths is potentially gonna solve, or pounding that nail is gonna solve it. Like, if you get to the end of that and it still isn't okay, then that's okay too,
Right.
right? But what's the next indicated step? Is that go outside? Is that play some music? Is it yoga? Call your sister, call your friend Betsy. What is that next step? And I
Right.
think our society has a tendency to sort of push us in the back, you gotta get through it, look at Instagram, you'll feel better, and then
Mhm.
it comes back to being outside instead of, "Where am I? What am I doing? What's important
Right.
to me?"
And in the case of Lily losing a loved one, going through something super traumatic like that, here's the thing, if you avoid the pain, you're gonna feel it at some point. So, like you said, go through it, walk through the pain, process the pain, do what you need to do because it's going to happen whether you like it or not at some point, right? And like you said, going around it doesn't avoid it. It just delays it.
And then sometimes it comes out in forms that we don't like drug addiction or whatever, abuse, um, whatever that may be. So I think it's super important to know that it's okay to not be okay.
Right. Yes. Now, and it's this is such a tricky subject because, we talk about choice and we talk about pivoting out of it, and then we talk about it's okay. It's okay, but you still need to move forward. It's okay, but you still need to try to find those tools that are gonna help you, right? It's not like, we're not saying, "Oh, if it doesn't work, you can just go ahead and fall back and stay there forever." That's not it. It's
No.
just that sometimes you have to give yourself grace in order to move out of it. I know that, not too long ago, and it wasn't anything super important, but it was one of those days where I fell into a funk, and I started putting pressure on myself right away saying, "I shouldn't be in this funk. I should know how to move out of this. I should be able to do this." And the more I tried to push myself out of it, the more I beat myself up for not getting out of it quick enough, which was just this vicious circle that was taking me further down until I said, "You know what? I'm giving myself 24 hours." I don't know, random number. I could have said 2 hours. I could have said, 36. I don't know. But that gave me the space then to just settle into it and really look at what it was and look at where I'm at and to find a way to get out of it. And I think that's what we're talking about is to give yourself that grace and that space to figure it out and to just sit in it for a little bit, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
in the health life coach thing, they call it stepping back,
okay.
right? Like, and that's okay. Like, there's no right or what wrong way. But yes, I think your point of moving forward is key. Like, it's okay to do those things and step back and take 2 years if your daughter dies or whatever else, if your life falls apart or whatever the circumstances.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I think in doing so, the whole key is knowing that it's still moving forward. It's just moving through it, not around it,
Yeah.
right? Like giving ourselves permission to stay there as long as we need to move through it. Like for me with Lily's death, um, it's ongoing. Like every day is different and every emotion, and I'm starting to have emotions that I never knew I had before. So there's a lot of like sifting and like sitting and like, oh my God, like what is this? And I think that part's okay. But yes, I think that you're right. I don't think you can lose sight of what that is, and that's still moving forward.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. 2 words or 1 word in a phrase. Choice and moving forward. Those are our themes for today. But anyway, well, I wanna thank you so much for coming on and talking with me and opening up your heart and really just giving guidance and insight, for those people out there that have gone through similar, things and maybe are kinda in the same boat, but maybe don't know how to get out of it or which way to turn. And, you've given such an inspirational view of it that, I love the fact that you're so resilient and you keep moving forward and you do show up with joy and love. Um, and yet you don't give yourself enough credit for it. And that's my perception. And what's so funny about that is that's just my perception because everybody's journey is their own and you just have to be authentically you, whatever that means. So I just want to say thank you for being you. You're wonderful. I love you. And I'll see you soon, which is
Yeah.
so much fun. And look forward. Oh, so okay. So what recommendations would you make real quick as far as is there a certain Carl Jung book or like is there where do you reference Carl Jung every morning?
YouTube.
Okay.
YouTube. I like, lots of Jordan Peterson on YouTube, lots of Carl Jung, any of that stuff. There's so many great, inspirational, motivational. Denzel Washington, oh my god, he gives some awesome talks, and Anthony Hopkins, I mean, just some amazing, good, stuff that what I find about it is it's all stuff we innately know,
Mhm.
but we don't, or we don't think about it, or and it's like sometimes I'm just, like, having constant aha moments, like, "Oh, of course. Right, that makes so
It's
much sense."
it's the duh with the aha, right? It's
Right,
because
right,
sometimes they're like, "Well, duh," but aha at the same time. So,
right,
yeah, and I know exactly what you're saying. You're like,
right,
yeah,
exactly,
that's
exactly.
amazing.
So, oh, Betsy, it's been so wonderful being here with you this morning. I really, truly appreciate this time together.
Yeah, me too. So thank you so much. And I just want to remind everybody, it would be so great if you could help me out, get the word out there. If something today resonated with you, leave a comment, subscribe, like, do all those wonderful things. I'd really, really appreciate it. And I just want everybody to have a wonderful day, make choices, and move forward. Hey, if today's conversation inspired you, please consider leaving a review, commenting, and sharing this episode with somebody who could benefit. And don't forget to follow us on YouTube, subscribe, and follow on YouTube to stay updated. And I want to shout out to Audio Alchemy Productions for making this podcast a success. Until next time, keep embracing your journey and empowering your life.